Big Ten is desperately trying to rip away at the fabric of the sport with a ridiculous proposal of 24 or 28 teams in the college football playoff. But what does it mean for the Big 12? Okay, obviously, very easy to see. Does not take a rocket scientist to see. It would not be a good thing for the sport. But what does this mean for the Big 12 specifically? To me, it's another temptation. And much like 4-4-2-2 was a temptation, this is an even sweeter temptation for the Big 12. And it's one the Big 12 can't afford to fall into. You cannot fall in this trap, even if you would look at it and say, hey, we're actually pulling closer to the Big 10 and the SEC. All right. So, best way to characterize that first plan, the 4-4-2-2 plan, 4 auto bids for the Big 10 and SEC, 2 each for the Big 12 and ACC. It was a total trap, man. It was a trap that was set out there for the Big 12 and the ACC to be like, oh, wait, this would be great. If we go 5+11 or whatever other format, we're going to get smoked every year. There's no way we'll be getting multiple teams in every year. So why would we not just sign up to go ahead and guarantee that we're going to get multiple teams in every year? Of course we would do that. But then you do that and you're signing on the dotted line. We are inferior. We are an inferior conference. We are half of what the Big Ten is. We are half of what the SEC is. It kills negotiating power. It kills your ceiling. It's basically a non-starter. And thankfully, the Big Ten or the Big 12 and the ACC rather were not enticed by that trap and stood their ground and said, no. We're not going to do that. Felt to me kind of like, those timeshare meetings that they'll have. And they're like, hey, we'll give you a free excursion for the day and you can come eat this nice meal at a nice hotel. Yeah, but then you're going to get locked into a timeshare. It's not worth it. It's a nice, shiny, fancy-looking trap, but you don't want to get locked into that timeshare, my friend. That's what it was. Well, now Big Ten wants to expand this, right? And so 24 or 28, well, how many would that mean for the Big 12 and the ACC then? I know that's your first question. The SEC apparently has even mulled a 32-team playoff at one point. That was a part of this reporting. What happens? Well, you might get 7. You might get 17, or rather 5 teams in. 5. So forget 2, you might get 5. 7, 7, 5, 5, 2, 2. Well, okay, let's do some math here. Guys, I tell you all the time, I got a communications degree from a state school, okay? Go Cats. But I am not like a Harvard math major, but I can do a little bit of math. And when you're at 2 versus 4, you've got 50% less teams, right? You've also got 50% as many teams. If you have 5 to their 7, you've got 71% as many teams. 71% is greater than 50. So this proposal, when I say that it's the same trap, but it's even a little bit sweeter, I say it because of that. You're now 71% of the SEC and Big Ten versus 50% of the SEC and Big Ten. So if this is the apple, don't bite the apple. All right, that apple looked pretty good before. Well, now dunk it in caramel. Here's a caramel apple. Are you going to bite the caramel apple here? That's the trap. That's the temptation. But you can't do it. You can't do it because fundamentally what is happening here is the exact same thing. Like this, what the Big Ten has tried to do is solve for the SEC, which, I mean, obviously that's the bigger problem for them. How do we get the SEC on board? And what they're trying to do is assuage the SEC and be like, look, you'll get 7 in. Fine. Like, stop worrying about whether you're going to get 5, 6, or 7 or whatever. You'll get 7 in every year. Don't worry about it. College football season is here, guys, and that means we all need to find good deals on tickets, all right? And the best place to do that is SeatGeek. I have to give a huge shout out to SeatGeek, the sponsor of today's video. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. So obviously college football is covered, but if you're a music guy like me, it's perfect for concerts. I'm buying a ton of concert tickets this fall. And I tell you what, I have my eye on those Holy War tickets for BYU and Utah coming up as well. And man, all you got to do is open up the app. It's perfect. You can go check what's going on here, find the green dots in the seat. That means they're good deals. Red dots, maybe not so much, but SeatGeek will help you find the best deals on seats depending on where it is that you are trying to sit. They're each rated on a scale of 1 to 10. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And you guys know I'm here for you. I've got a code for you. Code Kurtz gets you $20 off your tickets. Again, that's code Kurtz for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase with promo code Kurtz. make sure you just click the link in the description to download the app and have that code on hand and ready to go. Guys, I'm here to help you out. I've got your back. Hit up my friends at SeatGeek. But it doesn't satisfy the Big 12 or the ACC, who still in this format, even though it's 71% now of those leagues instead of 50, still would be signing on the dotted line that we are an inferior conference. It is codifying inferiority, or shout out to Gooch Boring on Twitter. I liked this. Mandated inferiority. Mandated inferiority is what this would be. And so I certainly don't expect this to move the needle with Brett Yormark at all, considering the stand that he's already taken and not only doubling down, but triple and quadrupling down on the 5+11 plan. Like, he does not seem to be one that's going to budge. I certainly wouldn't expect Jim Phillips to budge at this point with where they're at. But what it will obviously come down to is what does the SEC want? Does the SEC want to get on board with this and then push it forward? Would this be, I think another interesting question here is, would this be something that Big 12 and ACC folks would legitimately threaten legal action over? Because that was mentioned, at least mentioned in some of the Ross Dellinger reporting about 4422 is like, hey, if they're going to do this, if they're going to jam this through, we know what's in the contract. And well, yes, they have the ultimate decision-making power. They also have to, and I'm forgetting right now, I should have this pulled up. I apologize. The specific language, how it's worded in the contract, but they have to give appropriate input to everybody else. And so the threat there was, well, hey, if you just try and slam 4422 through, we will sue. We're going to threaten legal action on this and say that you didn't give us our full bit of input. Now, maybe it's a tougher case since 4422 is dead, basically, and they're going to a different one that gives you a little bit more here. Probably a tougher legal case, but I don't know. Would this be one where that starts popping up again? I have no idea. But just to get the basics here, even if you have 5 versus their 7, 71% versus 50%, it does not change the fundamental reason that the Big 12 was pushing back on 4422 and would prefer 511. So I do not expect this to change or be pushed forward by the Big 12. If you are curious, okay, well, what would that have meant for the Big 12? And John, you say this is a temptation. There are some that definitely are very vehemently, or were vehemently even on board with 4422 that are Big 12 fans. I think this actually this will underscore the point to me of why it is tempting. Okay, let's just look at who would have made the playoff last year from the Big 12 if you had 5. Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, Baylor in your playoff. Okay, that would be pretty fun to see which of those teams could shake it up, win some games, do some damage, especially when I went through the other conferences and I tried to pull a kind of a pool of teams that you might be seeing in that first or second round. If it's Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, Baylor playing Illinois, Indiana, LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Louisville, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, even Duke could have. I don't know how the tiebreakers broke in the ACC. Duke could have been in there. If those are the types of teams that you're playing, you don't want to see the Big 12 get a crack at those teams with BYU. Last year's BYU would have been great to see that happen. So that is tempting. But again, short-term versus long-term. You got to have the long-term discipline. The Big 12 and the ACC, somewhat by necessity, have more of that. Because I'm not naive enough to say, hey, if the Big 10 and the ACC were in the position of the Big 10 and the SEC right now, they wouldn't be doing the same thing. I get it. It's those in power being governed by greed because there's nobody to govern for the greater good. But that gives you a little bit of idea of what this would mean. And the ultimate portion of this, to just bring it back out, branch back out to the big, broad picture here. Do we need to see Louisville, Baylor in the college football playoff? And I don't say that to disparage Baylor. They were batted down Hail Mary away from the Big 12 championship game last year, and I have picked them to compete for the Big 12 championship this year. But last year's Baylor team against Louisville or Syracuse, Colorado, nice season for Colorado, but I don't think anyone's really clamoring for Syracuse, Colorado in the college football playoff. We don't really need that, man. We don't really need that. And That's the ultimate point here with everything.